G'day guys, Dane here from Clarkey's column. Now, we're not live. We did go live a couple of days ago. We had an issue halfway through the stream, so we are going to re-record that podcast after this. But for now, I am joined with the most popular guest we've had, Oliver from NRL, in my opinion. I'll just hand over to you to say g'day real quick there, Ollie.
Hope we're all well, guys. Oliver from NRL, in my opinion, here, and let's get into some ladder predictions.
Awesome, guys. Just quick, if this is uploaded to Facebook and you're seeing it, I'll add a little link to Oliver's page. Click on there and make sure you check him out for the 2019 season. Today, we're going to be looking at our 2019 ladder predictions. Now, you can see them both up on the screen now, 1 to 16. Our top 4 looks to be the exact same. We've got the Roosters, Panthers, Souths, and Storm. So I suppose it's really hard to tip against the Roosters not to finish first, given their squad almost improves from last year. And if it doesn't improve, it certainly doesn't go down to any extent. Panthers, well, I mean, as we spoke about, they've got enough depth that, you know, if their halves are to be injured all through the State of Origin period, they're likely going to have Tyrone May and Jerome Luai in there, which in themselves are Samoan international representatives. So much depth and so much talent in that squad. Third, Souths, I think, you know, they were pretty impressive through 2018. There's certainly nothing to suggest or any major departures from the club besides maybe Jason Clark off the bench. But nothing major to suggest that they're going to have a form slump or drop lower on the ladder. Obviously, Wayne Bennett comes in as coach. Very professional, knows how to get the best out of his players. And fourth, Melbourne Storm. Look, I understand they lost Cooper Cronk last year and the people were saying they're not going to finish top 4 anymore. Now they've lost Billy Slater as well. They're not going to finish top 4, seems to be what people are saying as well. But you just can't count out any team coached by Craig Bellamy. I mean, of long-standing NRL coaches, he's the only one to have anything near this, but he has a 50% chance of getting his team to the grand final. Yes, there's a big asterisk next to some of those years, but if we're talking strict stats as far as the NRL goes and what's included in their official statistics, then Bellamy is by far the best coach or has the most chance to get his team to the grand final. Just what I've said there, would you add anything to our top 4 there, Oliver?
Not too much. Only the Sydney Roosters are, for me, probably the side that are most likely to go back-to-back. In the past 10 years, I guess you could say, for me, they are most likely to go back-to-back. Whether they will or not, that's obviously up for debate. But pre-season, they've got to be the favourites for the title in 2019.
Okay, now, 5th, I've got the Cowboys. You've got the Cowboys out of the top 8. I think the Cowboys took a step backwards last year with the return of JT, and I think they sort of lost the mentality they had in 2017 where we're all putting in, we're all here, we're all fighting, that sort of mentality where everyone's a little bit equal. And I think once JT returned, it sort of threw that out of the window and they were leaning on him too heavily. Obviously, teams know when you're versing JT, you need to put the pressure on. I think with him gone and Michael Morgan returning to that number 7 likely, they're going to have a similar year to what we saw in 2017. Now, I know they should have finished outside of the top 8. Of course, the Bulldogs upset the Dragons in the final round. But the 2017 final series, we can't discount that. That was an amazing run. Certainly shows what they're capable of. And another reason I've got them so high is the signing of Josh Maguire. To me, I just don't see how a forward pack led by Josh Maguire, Jordan McLean, Cohen Hess, Gavin Cooper, Jason Tamalolo. That's just a couple names. You know, we're talking on the bench as well, possibly John Asiata, Scott Bolton. It's just such an experienced and, in my opinion, the best forward pack in the comp. I just don't see how a forward pack that dynamic and that explosive with Michael Morgan playing behind it can be outside of the top 8. But obviously, you disagree, so I am very keen to hear why.
Well, just something that I'm actually going to add to my argument, which I actually saw just before we started recording. Tamari Martin has actually come out and said that he believes his halves partnership with Michael Morgan is not working out the way that he wanted to at the moment. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, but they just mustn't be sort of gelling even in training at the moment. So that's sort of a worrying side. For me, it's not how good the Cowboys are. It's sort of how good the teams around them are going to be. It's not necessarily that the Cowboys are going to be bad. The other teams are going to be good. Teams that are sort of going to be around the same spot as them in 2019 time, sides like the West Tigers, the Titans, the Bulldogs, they've sort of been rebuilding for a couple of seasons now.
Yep.
And they've brought in some good players as well in the off-season, just like the Cowboys. But I guess you could say the Cowboys are more in an earlier stage in their rebuild. Yep. And for me, I think at one point in the season, they'll definitely be in the top 8. I think they'll have a good run of form. But I think maybe near the end, they might just drop out there because there are so many other teams as well, like I said, that are sort of in a little bit of a better position than the Cowboys, as they have had time to rebuild over the past couple of seasons. Yep. I guess they're starting to gel together now, and they're just adding the final pieces, where the Cowboys, I guess this season you could say, are beginning the rebuild by signing, a large amount of players, I guess you could say. And it's not necessarily that they don't have the talent. It's just I want to see the cohesion and the chemistry on the field. They can definitely prove me wrong, the Cowboys. They are one of the teams that are, sort of my out there risky choices to finish 12th, but we'll just have to see.
Yeah, and I mean, you spoke on there with Tamari Martin saying his partnership is not where it needs to be with Michael Morgan. I guess quickly, would you keep Jake Clifford in the number 6, or would you like to see Tamari Martin and Michael Morgan link up again and potentially bring the form that saw them go to a grand final in 2017?
I'd definitely like to see Martin at the start of the season, at least. Was showing great signs at Penrith. Obviously, some stuff happened there and he ended up at the Cowboys. And as you said, they ended up making the 2017 grand final. So I think if you're the Cowboys, you at least start off with that halves combination.
Yep.
And then maybe if that doesn't work out, like Tamari Martin sort of alluding to, he doesn't think it will, then you bring in a Jake Clifford.
Awesome. You do have the Sharks at 5th. I've got them at 7, so pretty similar there. I think we were both looking at the Sharks as a potential top 4 side before, obviously, Shane Flanagan was sacked, and now they have John Morris as their interim coach. Now, if the Sharks were to fall outside of the top 8, I wouldn't be completely shocked, but I just think with Wade Graham returning towards the halfway mark, they're going to have a ball-playing fullback in Matt Moylan, Sean Johnson, Chad Townsend, and Wade Graham in the back row. That's a lot of playmaking ability through that team. Obviously, they've got a lot of experience, so I think we're both under the understanding they will finish in the top 8. Looking at number 6, I've got the Dragons. You've got them at number 7. We both have them pretty similar there, so not too much to talk about. But I will say this. Before the signing of Corey Norman, I actually had the Dragons finishing around the 13-14 mark. The reason I put forth for that was I didn't see the Dragons having the great start like they have in previous seasons and then gradually having that slide. So I thought if they don't find their mojo early, there is the potential for them to slip out of the 8. Do I think that's still a possibility? I think it's unlikely now. I think, if someone in the halves goes down, you've got Matt Duffy likely sitting in reserve grade. If one of their centres goes down, you've got the options of Laffey, Aitken, Lomax, wingers, Maranta, Pearson, Pereira. They seem to have a lot of depth around every position, besides maybe their forward pack. But in saying that, they do have one of the best forward packs, so I don't think they'll struggle too much. 7th for you, Dragons, so very similar there. 7th for me, Sharks. 8th, the Knights. Now, you've got them at 6th, I've got them at 8th. We both have the Knights in the top 8. I guess the reasons for me are, I just think the rebuild's complete. I think if Kalen Ponga's switch to the halves is successful, which I think it will be, he's obviously when Mitchell Pearce was out last year, he really stood out and was an influential playmaker on that side. And I think Connor Watson at stages struggled in the number 6 for the playmaking ability. But the games when we saw him take the ball to the line and just say, I'm going to run this, he looked very good. So obviously, a little bit to work on in terms of practicing under the high ball, etc. at fullback. But if we're talking where both those men's strengths were in 2018, then the switch does make sense. Anything you'd like to add to that for the Knights being a top 8 side?
Not really. The rebuild is complete, and I think they've got the roster now. They're not going to have to make too many signings next off-season. Now it's time to see if they gel and they can create some cohesion. I think they have the talent to finish in the top 8, and I'm expecting big things from Kalen Ponga in 2019.
Absolutely. I guess there is a lot of pressure on him to try to, keep the standard he said, but I think he's more than up to it. Now, this is the part of the video where everyone watching is readying their angry comments. They're getting set to tell us a lot of choice words in the comments, so we will try to break down why we have certain teams in the bottom 8 of the ladder. And again, I'd like to stress this is just our opinions. It's not fact. I know certainly last time I think I had the Raiders to win the wooden spoon when I did my earlier ladder prediction, and there was certainly a lot of angry Raiders fans that still message me to this day talking about that time I predicted them for the spoon. So I've got at number 9 the Broncos. You have Bulldogs. Now I've gone Broncos. I think they could just slip into the 8, or they could just slip outside of the 8. They're the sort of team where I think they're going to start the year firing and they're going to start strong. But I think we have to look at their forward pack. We've got Payne Haas, David Fafita, Jaden Sewer, and there's a couple other young sort of fellas in there. Tavita Pengai Jr., not so much Tavita, but certainly the first 3. This will be their first full season of NRL. And it's 25 rounds of constant footy. They are young. Obviously, it's going to be demanding physically, but also, as we know about rugby league, it's the mental aspect of the game that is so crucial. And I just don't know if these young forwards will be ready for a full 25 rounds of action. Factor in, some of them may be looking at representative football as well. So that's the reason I've left them slightly outside of the 8. However, if the young forwards and players can manage their first full year in the NRL effectively, then I would not be surprised in any way to see them finish top 8. You've got the Bulldogs, a side that really improved towards the end of 2018, and you could almost say it looked like a completely different side once Lockie Lewis came in.
Yeah, and that's why I've got them finishing 9th here. They pretty much brought over half their reserve grade side, and they were a better side for doing so. Also, in the off-season, they have made some major additions, in my opinion. Christian Crichton seems like he'll really fit in. He was solid at Penrith. Didn't do anything too flash, but he played his role perfectly. And I mean, he just did what he needed to.
Just to cut in there real quick, the Panthers lost Australian winger Josh Mansour and New Zealand captain Watene Zelezniak was off the wing. He was at fullback. Usually if a team lost 2 players of that caliber, you'd notice it. But you just did notice it. Christian Crichton, he seamlessly made the transition into first grade.
Definitely. And speaking of the Panthers signings to the Bulldogs, Corey Harawira-Naera as well, who is probably going to get a bit of a better opportunity at the Bulldogs than he would at the Panthers, which is a bit odd to say because Penrith obviously are renowned for bringing through juniors and young players. So I think he'll definitely fit into that young Bulldogs forward pack alongside the likes of Reece Martin and Raymond Faitala-Mariner. Who else have they got? They've got
Jesse Sue's come across to the club.
Jesse Sue.
Dylan Napa. There's a little bit of a question mark there at the moment, but we won't talk too much on that. And I believe
Jack Cogger, is it?
Jack Cogger as well from the Newcastle Knights. A little bit of a weird one because I believe when he signed that contract, he was promised a starting gig, but I don't know if that's going to happen now.
Yeah.
So pretty much you've got the Bulldogs near the 8 because you think they're building onto something nice. Obviously, we saw their form improve and they've made the right signings.
Definitely.
All right, awesome. Now, one thing we didn't talk about before, but I really like the team you have at number 8 there, the Gold Coast Titans. Unfortunately, I couldn't put our team that high just yet, but I believe this is the best team we've ever had on the Gold Coast. This is the best coach we've ever had on the Gold Coast. This is the best depth we've ever had on the Gold Coast. Yeah. So we have realistically given ourselves every chance to make this our year. And you seem to think it will?
I think it will, but it's more of a case as, and this has been the past couple of seasons for me with the Titans, because they've generally had the same squad of players that just need to build some cohesion. They should have been, for probably 2017 at least onwards, not making the 8, but probably finishing 10th and above. They should have been, they weren't. And as we could even see last season, they were sort of teetering around, mathematically being able to finish in the 8, and then they finished at about 13th, 14th.
It's a mental thing. I remember watching the games thinking, we had to win it to continue our chance for the finals. Once we lost that game, the team's mental side of things just went down, and they didn't really seem interested in playing football. This year, they don't have a choice. We've got that much depth. Garth Brennan has simply said, no one here is guaranteed a spot. And he's shown that. He signed Bryce Cartwright and Leilani Latu on decent coin, and they didn't see much first grade last year. I think more teams need to do this, to be honest. But, I would love to see us in the top 8 this year. I don't know if we will. But like I said, we've certainly given ourselves every opportunity. We both have the Tigers at 10th. Now, that would be very similar to where they finished last year. I believe last year they finished 9th. It's a tough one, and they're definitely one of those teams that under Madge Maguire, they do have the ability to make the 8. I just see them having a similar season to last year. Inconsistency in terms of they're able to beat the Roosters and the Melbournes of our competition, but then they lose to the Tigers at the Titans at Leichhardt Oval for Robbie Farah's first game back. There's sort of inconsistencies there. Do you see that continuing next year?
I do see that, but it's weird. They will finish around the same spot at the ladder, but I can see some improvement, I guess you could say. On the field, what we see from the side, from the Tigers. I know you've definitely argued that the signing of Michael Maguire was really good because he has done some work with the NRL referees. Yeah. I'll let you explain that because that's...
Okay, so essentially something we spoke about on, I believe, a previous podcast, or I definitely spoke about it in my Dark Horse column. I've put the West Tigers as a dark horse for this year because whilst Michael Maguire was outside of an NRL coaching gig in 2018, he was signed as sort of a coach to the referees. Now, he would tell the referees certain tactics they used to coach to slow down the ruck, etc. And I believe that really did, having someone as experienced as Madge telling the referees what to look for, really contributed to the huge penalty count rise we saw. Now, if he's able to tell them what to look for, now he knows how to counter that as a head coach. He can tell his experienced forward pack of Martellino, Russell Packer, Robbie Farah, Elijah Taylor, etc. He can tell them, guys, this is what they're looking for. This is how we're going to counter it. This is how we're going to slow down the ruck in defense. And in offense, I want you to do this to try to force the penalty whilst trying to get a fast play the ball. That does give them a huge wild card headed into 2019, as realistically, this is the first time in NRL history I believe that's ever happened. A coach has gone from first grade coach, referees coach, back to another team as a first grade coach. So that definitely gives them a huge wild card up their sleeve. Titans is at my 11th pick. Yours is the Warriors. Now, we have to talk about this because this is a contrasting difference. At the moment, I've got the Warriors winning the wooden spoon. It does seem ridiculous considering they finished top 8 last year. You tend to think they'll be a little bit closer to the 8.
Yeah.
And this is no personal knock from me on Blake Green. He's a fantastic player. But I've always found Blake Green to be a complementing half. And what I mean by that was, at the Melbourne Storm, he was partnering Cooper Cronk, the Australian halfback. At the Manly Sea Eagles, he was partnering Daly Sherry Evans, who is now the Australian halfback. This year at the Warriors, he was partnering Sean Johnson, the New Zealand halfback. So I just think throughout his first grade career in the NRL, more times than not, he's been playing with a top tier halfback, and he's sort of helped add to their game. And this is the first time he'll be with a complete rookie. They do not have the option to debut anyone who has NRL experience unless they make a signing. They don't seem interested in doing that. So our options are Chanel Tavita Harris, Hayes Perham, I hope I've said those two names correct, and Adam Kieran. Of those three, I think Adam Kieran potentially goes to 5'8", and Blake Green goes to halfback. But I'm just not convinced yet that he has what it takes to be the main man in an NRL team. I could be very wrong. The years under Cooper Cronk, Cherry Evans, and Sean Johnson have obviously made him a better player, and maybe he's going to come out and just make me look like a complete fool and show he is ready for that next stage in his career. But for what we know now, and without taking, uneducated guesses, for me, I have to have the Warriors finishing quite low and potentially picking up the wooden spoon. But I will hand over to you to say why you think otherwise.
Well, can I just argue that that point you made about Adam Kieran, the Warriors bringing in an inexperienced half. They've been in that position. The last time they were in that position, they brought in an inexperienced half by the name, you might have heard of him, Sean Johnson, and they were the runners-up that year. So I'm just saying we never know with these things. Another thing as well, on paper, they have the best player in the NRL in their squad. Some people have probably forgot this already, but Roger Tuivasa-Sheck won the Dally M medal in 2018. So you can't look past that. I know for a lot of people that was an unpopular decision. A lot of people didn't see that happening. But he is on paper the best player in the NRL. So you can't discount that for me.
Do you want to see more ball playing out of RTS, or would you prefer him keep his running role in that side come 2019?
We might have to see him run the ball a bit more in 2019 if he needs to pick up some slack for, let's say, Adam Kieran, if he comes into the squad due to that inexperience, maybe at least at first to sort of lessen the burden, I guess you could say, on him. Whether that works out or not, that is still yet to see. So the Warriors are definitely a big question mark. For me, I've got them sitting 11th. Realistically, they could finish last. I know I've seen personally a lot of people say that they will finish last, agreeing with you. I've seen people that have the Warriors in their top 8, so they are definitely one of those sides that they could just finish anywhere on that ladder for me.
And if
I've got them sort of...
If it was to be any team, I mean, the Warriors are renowned for their inconsistency, right?
Yeah.
And I'll just draw to an example last year. They looked unstoppable to start the year, and then Anzac clash rolls around in Melbourne, and they get beaten 54-18 or something. And I remember watching that game, just thinking, Warriors, just Warriors. They're just very inconsistent, and I guess that is why we do have a contrasting difference there. 12th place, you've got the Cowboys. We already spoke about them. We both seem to have the Raiders very low. Here, I have them at 12th. You have them at 14th. I'm interested to hear your reasoning first, because obviously I got a lot of slack the last time I put them this low. But interested to hear, why do you think the Raiders will, I guess we could use the word fail here, to make the top 8 in 2019 again?
They're a rebuilding side. That's the main thing you can say about the Raiders. Again, there's, I guess, a bit like the Warriors, where they could finish higher up, because they've had, over the past couple of seasons, they've been renowned for being that side that they're winning, they play 60 minutes each game and then they end up losing. For me, it's a time to experiment with this Canberra Raiders squad, give some young players a chance, which is what I think they'll be doing, because they do have a lot of young players in the side. They're, for me, in a similar position to the Broncos, the Cowboys, who are sort of around them. Same sort of position where they've sort of got to be experimenting with the squad a bit, not as much the Cowboys, because they have made some signings. With the Raiders, some young players that are coming in. Brad Abbey will most likely be replacing Jordan Rapana until round 13. For me, if Brad Abbey is playing well, when Jordan Rapana comes back, Rapana still plays in that side, but I think you still got to find a way for Brad Abbey to also be playing in that side. I've also seen as well reports of Jack Whiten training in the halves. Yeah,
I was just thinking that then that could definitely work. Rapana returns to the wing, Abbey drops to fullback, Whiten to 5'8", Sees at a halfback. That's certainly a shift that that could work out for the Raiders.
Yeah, and until round 13 as well, when Rapana comes back, I've also got Arta Hingano partnering Aiden Caesar in the halves. I know a fair few people have Sam Williams.
Yeah.
For me, Sam Williams misses out. Not even a utility role. I've got Havili in that role, just because you do need to be playing these young players for me, for the Raiders. And Sam Williams, I've seen him being called the greatest second string player that we currently have in the NRL. I think it's his third stint at the Raiders currently. I guess that's not really a good sign to see that someone's, left the club multiple occasions. He's come back, there's a reason that they brought him back, but there are reasons that he's left as well.
I just don't think any other NRL club has shown much interest in him when he's returned from Super League. Whereas Ricky knows he's not getting a talent, or he is getting a talented player. Sorry, that's really wrong for me to say. He's not getting a world-class or first-class player, but he is getting a talented player with the ability to fit in. Interesting, though. So the reason I have the Raiders quite low, and this is because I just don't think we're going to see them improve in closing out games. I think if you're serious about closing out games, you have to look towards the halves for that reason. And Ata Hingano or Sam Williams is not a great... I honestly would not even say it's an improvement on Blake Austin. So for that reason, I don't see it improving. I know a lot of punters did put it towards their huge front row pairing of Junior Paulo and Shannon Boyd. And I certainly believe that too after 2017. But 2018... the points weren't coming through the middle when they weren't closing out games. The points were coming out wide. And I think that sort of shows that the front row pair weren't to blame there. So yeah, we both sort of agree they're not going to be there. 13th, I've got Bulldogs. I see them improving, but I don't see them improving as much as you do. Eels, I've got them 14, you've got them 15. There's not too much to say about this squad. I mean, they have made the signing of Blake Ferguson and Junior Paulo. They did struggle to get points, so they signed Manly Seagulls top try scorer, Sean Lane. I mean, they needed a big body up front. They signed Paulo, and they needed an explosive winger willing to come in and take the early hit up, which, when they had Bevan French there, certainly wasn't willing to do. Name a better man than Blake Ferguson, who made the most meters in the NRL and most post-contact meters in the NRL last season. I mean, despite those three huge key signings, and I will say they've recruited very well. Those are three of the best signings they could have made. I just don't see the improvement.
No, not this year. The main thing for me with Parramatta is to improve their forward pack, which they've begun to do by bringing in Paulo. For me, really, they don't really need to change their backline. What their backline needs is consistency. We saw definitely in 2017, they were one of the best backlines in the NRL. They just need to refine some of that chemistry. And Corey Norman leaving the Eels might end up being a positive for Mitchell Moses. It'll allow him to take a bit more control. Obviously, we were hearing rumours that there was a bit of discontent between the two, I guess you could say, last season. They just weren't gelling. So with Norman out of the equation, this might help Mitchell Moses really develop. For me, this is just not even a rumour. This is just an opinion of mine that's based off a rumour. Kyle Flanagan's contract, now that his dad, Shane Flanagan, has left the Cronulla Sharks, apparently this allows Kyle Flanagan to walk as well. Obviously a rumour, but if this rumour is true and I'm the Parramatta Eels, I am definitely trying to get Kyle Flanagan on my side. He's young. He has shown amazing potential in the younger grades. If they partner him up with Mitchell Moses, Flanagan's got the talent, but Moses will still be able to control the ruck, and Kyle Flanagan can play second to him for at least a couple of years while he gels. If Kyle Flanagan was to sign with the Eels, I might even bump him above Canberra. Might put him a bit higher on my ladder. But as I say, that's just sort of an opinion of mine, and it's certainly got no truth to it.
Certainly does make a lot of sense. Now, on what you're saying about Kyle Flanagan, I did reach out to him on two accounts to try to confirm whether that contract sort of clause is true, and also if I could get a pair of signed footy boots. I'm likely getting the pair of signed footy boots, but we're not getting the truth on the contract clause, so we'll have to wait and see how this one plays out. On what you're saying about Mitchell Moses now, we can't forget, at the start of this year, New South Wales Blues coach Brad Fittler said he's my choice at the moment for halfback. He played with him at Lebanon, and he was a huge fan of him. Obviously, it just didn't work for him in 2018, but, not just talking rugby league, sports athletes around the whole planet have a bad year and bounce back, and then, you quickly forget that bad year. Will Mitchell Moses do that? Maybe. We'll have to wait and see. Now, we both have Manly quite low here. We both have them. I've got them 15. You've got them 16. I've got them so low because I believe Des Hasler, when he arrives at a football club, he builds the squad he wants. Now, he realistically can't do that at the moment. I've spoken to the Manly Seagulls, someone who's a part of their coaching staff. He's confirmed to me that signings look to be off the table. He said we are too tight with the current salary cap restriction the NRL has on us. So they can't make the signings they want. And whether this is accurate or not, the website Zero Tackle, which lists players' contracts, only has about 10 players contracted past this year. Now, that's 20 first grade spots, obviously the top 30. That's 20 spots opening up in 2020. I don't know if the salary cap restriction is only for this year or next year. I should have researched that a little bit more. But if that does come off next year as well, you have to think Desi has a war chest. Desi loves a back-ended contract. Desi is going to build the squad he wants. And I think 2019 will be a rebuilding year for the Sea Eagles. 2020 will be the year they start pushing back for finals football. But yeah, you've got them quite low as well, so I'm interested to hear anything you'd like to add to what I just said then.
Just first, I need to apologise for someone. A liker of my page. He's very active within the community. He's one of the great NRL, in my opinion, likers. Jeff, he's a massive Manly supporter. When I put out the post, who's going to win the wooden spoon in 2019, a lot of people said Manly, and he was replying to every comment saying, sorry, Manly just doesn't do wooden spoons. I'm sorry, Jeff, but I think in 2019, Manly's going to have to do a wooden spoon for me. There is just so much against them.
Have they actually won the wooden spoon before?
Never. I think that's why he was saying that they don't do wooden spoons. But I think they're gonna have to get a trophy cabinet for.
Yeah, get the trophy cabinet ready, Manly.
Because if it's not this year, I think it might be coming soon. If that salary cap restriction lasts longer than 2019, especially. But yeah, for me, I think it's time. I think Manly are going to start doing wooden spoons in 2019. Why? Well, pretty much I'm echoing the reasons that you said. They're pretty big reasons. The salary cap restrictions. I think their only real signing that they've brought in this year that's at least had first grade experience. They're bringing back Matt Ballin from the West Tigers. Des is a great coach if he can coach the side put in front of him. But as you said, he likes to have a bit of free reign where he can, bring in players of his choosing that he desires. It's going to be good for Cherry Evans, I believe, Daly Cherry Evans, bringing back the coach that sort of brought him into first grade. Yeah. I can't see anything too amazing other than that. One good thing I'll say about Manly, their starting forward pack for me is very good. The likes of Trbojevic, Fanua Blake, Thompson, just to name a couple there. Tapau, exactly. Happy Coruscant. Yeah, so they've got a solid forward pack, a starting forward pack, but a solid starting forward pack alone probably isn't enough to do anything too amazing.
While you're saying that, I'm actually going to bring up my Manly predicted 17 right now. So, as you just said, an amazing starting forward pack. Aden Fanua-Blake, Api Coruscant, Tapau, Curtis Sirenen, ball playing back row there, Joel Thompson, Jake Trbojevic. But then we go to their bench. We've got the forwards on the bench. I always say this name wrong. I'm just going to call him Jack, the guy that came from the South Sydney Rabbitohs, the lock. Gowski.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know that's wrong. I need to actually listen and get that name correct. Kalepi Tanganoa, Frank Winterstein, Lloyd Perrott, or Tanila Paseka. Not a great bench, and definitely an area where they're going to struggle when they go to that bench realistically. But that is going to wrap up our video, guys. So I don't believe we'll upload this to Facebook. We'll just upload it directly to YouTube with a link to Facebook. What we'll upload to Facebook will be our actual ladders that you're seeing now. And we'll just add to watch the video as to why these predictions were made. Here's the link. I think that's what we'll do. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Do let us know whether it's on Facebook, our Instagrams, or in just the comment sections here on YouTube. What other sort of preseason predictions or videos would you like Oliver and myself to cover? Because obviously we're both passionate fans working hard on our pages every day. And we're more than happy to bring you guys any content you're willing to watch and you'd like to see. So all my stuff is on the bottom there. I've got Instagram, I've got Twitter, Facebook. You can email me, or obviously my YouTube where you are now. Oliver is on Facebook under NRL In My Opinion, and on Instagram. I'll leave a link to his Facebook also on this post. So if you're still watching now, when you click back to Facebook, just tap on his page, give it a like. He has a lot of great content. And I'll hand over to you now, Oliver, to say goodbye to our viewers.
Yeah, just quickly first again, Jeff, sorry, I know you're a great fan, but Manly are winning the spoon this year. And I just thought I'd add that in. And I'll see you guys later.
Cheers, guys. Have a good one.